All right. Well, apparently we're live and we are recording. We've got the evidence-based triathlete tonight, and I wore my Rebel shirt. And Ted is just getting home from working at UNLV. Hey, Ted, how's it going?
Good. Hey, happy Monday. It's pretty rare we do an EBT on a Monday, but this is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we didn't do this weekend because I was at an athletic training conference all weekend.
Yeah.
I think on Friday I didn't get home till like 10 p.m. and then
Mhm.
on Saturday it was about I think it was 9. Having a conference in Las Vegas when you're from Las Vegas
Uh,
is horrible.
it's not as much fun.
It's
No.
not much fun having to drive home. And
Yeah.
so, anyways, thank you so much for moving this to Monday, and super excited to chat with you tonight.
Yeah, this is great. And so I wore the Rebel shirt. You're coming home from work, and we have a Rebel triathlete as our guest, Levi Thomas. Hey, Levi, how's it going?
Doing great. I'm super excited to be here with you guys tonight.
Well, this is going to be great to hear more about you starting the UNLV Triathlon Club and more about your involvement with triathlon and taking up the sport. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Ted, what question do you want to start with?
Well, I guess maybe just a quick introduction. So for Levi, that he is the president of the UNLV
Mhm.
Triathlon Club, the first inaugural president.
Yeah.
That'll always be there. 25 years from now, you still have been the first president of that triathlon club. But really, we wanted to start out actually kind of an overview of what we're going to talk about tonight. We just kind of want to pick Levi's brain about like how it was to start
Mhm.
a triathlon club at a university and literally from the ground up. There was no infrastructure in place at all. So let's actually start out with the I guess the first question is like how did you get involved in triathlon just to begin with? Like what was the impetus for you?
Yeah, so I've always been an endurance athlete. I ran as a little kid with my dad. I didn't learn how to swim until way later than I should have. Took swimming lessons in middle school, and really had a lot of fun with it. Then I joined the cross country team as a freshman in high school and loved it. I had a ton of fun with it and got super injured every single year of high school in cross country, but I still loved it. And so I joined the swim team rather than track because I found it. I had some good friends that were on the swim team and just kind of loved those two sports together. Biking is just kind of fun that I enjoy doing, traveling through biking and whatever. And a few years after high school, one of my cross country friends, just a good friend of mine, invited me to join him for the Coco Pelli race.
Uh,
And so we signed up for a sprint distance triathlon. I had no idea what we were doing. And it was just a ton of fun. And I knew that that was a sport that I wanted to keep doing. And so I signed up for the Olympic distance for the next year at Coco Pelli and planned on keep going. So that's kind of where it all started.
Awesome. I mean, it's funny because so many of us in the locals, BBSC race was our first race. So what was it that hooked you like after
Uh,
that race?
I mean, just the combination of the three sports that I love is a great hook, but the environment is so much fun. It's really exciting to get out there for a race and all the race adrenaline, race morning, you get there and you're lining up the water and there's just a bunch of other people there
yeah.
with, bright colored swim caps, freezing cold, getting ready to jump in this water and just so much support. I love personally when I am on the field, whatever, running or biking near somebody. I love to cheer them on, and it's nice to be passed by somebody and just hear like, "Hey, good job, you're doing great, keep it up."
Mhm.
Like this hill's not too much longer, or whatever it is.
Mhm.
And so I just love the whole community aspect of it. It's a fun sport, and you just feel a huge sense of accomplishment when you pass that finish line every time.
Well, and Kokopelli is such a fun race, and that's a nice time of
Oh
year
yeah,
to do a race in southern Utah, and Sand Hollow is such a beautiful area, and that's a good challenging course. There's, you got to work on the bike, and then you get some nice downhill on the bike, but then the run is deceptively challenging.
yeah. I cramped up bad during that run portion during my first race.
And so then you went on from doing Cocapelli, and you have since done 70.3 St. George.
Mhm.
How did you make that big jump from doing Olympic distance up to 70.3?
So I wanted to keep increasing distance. I wanted to kind of explore what's out there in the triathlon world. I've got an uncle who's in the triathlon club at the Las Vegas Triathlon Club, and he's a huge Ironman fan. He loves doing full Ironman distances. And so when he found out that I started getting into triathlons, he was like, "Hey, come do a full Ironman with me. Like, you can totally do it."
I love
And
it.
so we signed up for Ironman Arizona, and it just happened to be in the busiest semester I had in college. And I was working at a physical therapy clinic at 4 in the morning, and then had probably 16 credits that I was taking at the time, including some tough like anatomy kind of classes. Um, and so I was trying to train for a full Ironman on maybe an hour a week, and I just knew that I wasn't going to be able to complete it and not feel good about it. And so I said, I can do a half Ironman distance for sure if I push it back another 6 months. And so rather than, I was really stressed out about trying to complete a full Ironman. So I kind of postponed my race and did the half Ironman and just absolutely loved it. My next semester was a lot calmer. And so I was able to train a little bit more, and just had a really good experience with that.
Awesome. So tell us the story about how during that race, because you told us the story, how during that race you were kind of, the impetus for the UNLV Triathlon Club came about.
Yeah. So a month or two before St. George Half Ironman, I had a race at UNLV. We had our little UNLV triathlon, and that's what really got it sparked. But I was trying to figure out then, I was talking to several different people about trying to start up a triathlon club and who I needed to talk to. And I kept hearing the name John Mercer. John Mercer, talk to this guy. He'll be your guy. He loves triathlons. Definitely try to get in contact with him. And so I was like, okay, trying to figure out what to do. So I found out that you were the president of the Las Vegas Triathlon Club. And so that was just kind of bouncing around in my mind. So then I'm in the run portion of the St. George Half Ironman, and I start passing this guy, and I see his tri kit says Las Vegas Triathlon Club on it. And I was like, no way. Like, I need to talk to this guy. So I ran up to him and I said, hey, you're part of the Las Vegas Triathlon Club. Do you by chance know John Mercer? And it just happened to be Bob Gamble. And he's like, of course I know John Mercer. He's a great guy. And so I was like, hey, just let him know next time you see him that there's a student at UNLV that's trying to start up a triathlon club, and just kind of get that idea in his mind. And hopefully we can get in contact. So I passed him, and like a year later, I meet up with him again. He's like, hey, you've got the tri club now. And I was the guy that you talked to during St. George Ironman. So it was really neat.
That's awesome. Well, it's nice to be known, but
Yeah.
this is really neat. Sort of a lot of different points coming together. Neat that you connected with Bob and the Tri Club that way. And I tell you what, when I heard that someone was going to start a student organization at UNLV for UNLV Triathlon, I was just thrilled. And I think Ted and I caught up, and I said, Ted, we got to be watching for this guy, Levi Thomas. We got to find out what's going on, because we are both so excited. We were excited then, and are still excited about you starting this club. It's been a long time coming. And I think people need to know the student clubs are run by students. And faculty do not start student clubs. And this is all student driven, which is really super impressive what you've been able to accomplish and get this off the ground.
Tell us then from there, how did you proceed? Because to me, this is a fascinating story.
So I worked mostly with Mike Conley at the UNLV SRWC. He was in charge of the original UNLV Rebel Rec triathlon. And so I was working with him on getting contacts and finding names. So I sent a couple of emails to Dr. Mercer, and I think they probably went straight to spam.
Oh no.
And so I was like, I'm not exactly sure what to do, how to get this started. And so about a month or two later, we had followed the Las Vegas Triathlon Club Facebook page, and we saw that they needed volunteers for their Las Vegas Triathlon event. And they specifically had mentioned needing volunteers for the swim, people with kayaks that could help with safety on the water. And we just happen to own inflatable kayak. And so I said, this is our opportunity to really get our foot in the door. We're like, I guarantee that Dr. Mercer is going to be there, and that we can just kind of casually mention, hey, like we're doing this thing at UNLV if you want to get involved. And so we show up on the day of the event, and we help out with the kayak, and it was a ton of fun for us. We loved getting to help out and see the event that they had planned. And then afterwards, he said, let me get you a shirt for volunteering. Like, thank you for your help. And I said, thank you so much. I'll wear this to our first UNLV Triathlon Club event. And I think that kind of sparked your interest.
Yeah.
Like, I've heard about you. And then I got your email, and we immediately started talking.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I know I just keep kind of prodding you along, but what did that mean, like, that you had to do, I guess, at the university level? Like, you met Dr. Mercer, he contacted me, we were ready to help you, but you had to do a lot on your own. So can you just give us a little bit of an idea of what that was all about, and how that went?
Yeah, for sure. So in order to be a UNLV Triathlon Club, we have to be a registered student organization, and there's just certain rules and requirements that you've got to meet in order to be recognized as a student organization. And so one of those is having a faculty advisor. Another one of those requirements is having, I think it was 10 students, maybe it was only 5, but 5 or so students that were interested in being a part of this organization. And there were a couple other, minor things. And so I knew that we needed to find somebody that would be willing and a good fit for a faculty advisor. So Mike at the SRWC said, like, if you cannot find anybody else to be the faculty advisor, he's like, I'll do it. But he said, I know that there's better people on campus for this. He's like, I know people there's plenty of other faculty on campus that want this club to exist and would do a better job of advising and actually being able to help you guys than he was. And so I started immediately texting my friends that I knew were endurance athletes. And I said, hey, would you be interested in joining a triathlon club at UNLV? And a lot of them were graduating that semester. They're like, I'm totally interested, but I don't know that I'll be able to be a student as long as you need me to. And so we started just kind of asking around for whoever we knew to be a part of our roster. And then once we got Dr. Mercer's email and started talking to him, then we had a solid faculty advisor. Then he reached out to you. And so then I think the two of you became our 2 faculty advisors and kind of met our minimum requirements to become an RSO. And then we could really start getting the ball rolling with some marketing and gathering new students to join.
Yeah. So tell me about that first time you guys set up a tent and tried to drum up business, because I think that was kind of the next step, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I think that really the first time, so I'm super lucky to have Ashlyn to support me through this whole thing, because she's the president of the Student Nutrition and Dietetics Association. So she's already the president of a different RSO. She's got some experience with leading an RSO, and she's got some kind of connections knowing when events are going to happen. And so her RSO, her club, was doing a tabling event at a new freshman orientation. And so she was like, hey, can my husband come and do a tabling event, or like table at this event as well? And they said, absolutely. Even though it's not an official RSO yet, it will be in the fall. We trust that you'll meet all the requirements. You're kind of on the right track. So they kind of gave us special permission to come table at this event to gather new freshmen. And so I grabbed my bike and I grabbed my medals and I grabbed all the coolest things that I could find that I'd earned so far from triathlons, a wetsuit, a bike, helmet, medals, all that kind of stuff. And I just set it up on a table and had a sign up sheet. And I got probably 80 freshmen that said they might be interested in joining that first day. So that kind of sparked a lot of hope.
So I hate to, John, sorry, I have one more question and let you go.
No, go.
What was it like to have these freshmen who, for the most part, didn't know, from my understanding, didn't know anything about triathlon, come up and like, hey, what's triathlon? Like, what was that like? Because we're so ingrained in the triathlon world that obviously we've answered that question, but you had to do it kind of over and over again. Well, how was that?
It was really cool. I like to ask a question. I like to ask them like if they've ever done any of the three sports, because if they have, there's a good chance they like one of the three sports, and that's a great entry point. Well, if you like to run, then come try these other sports and reduce your risk of injury. If you like to swim, well, come try biking and running. And like, this is a super fun sport. You can earn these cool medals. You can do all these super fun things. Like, there's really cool events that we get to participate in. And so I would kind of try to gauge these new students. Have you ever done cross country? Have you ever done swim in high school? Do you like these kinds of things? And, there seem to be two polar answers to that. Like, oh, I love running. I'm training for the Las Vegas half marathon or whatever it was going to be. Or I would never run unless a bear was chasing me.
I love it.
So it was kind of at that point gauging interest. And then a lot of people were interested in my bike. A lot of people love to come up to me and say, oh, this is a cool bike. Like, what is this for? And so I think having my bike on display has been, even though it's not like the fanciest bike, I got new wheels and so it looks cooler now. But I think just having something like that on display kind of piqued a lot of interest.
I love it. And then eventually you had your first meeting with everyone, and both Ted and I went to that meeting. And to be honest, I was thinking maybe there's going to be 5, maybe 8 people there, and you had a big crowd. I think that first meeting was 15 to 20 people.
Yeah, it was pretty big. Definitely bigger than I expected. And our current vice president didn't plan on going to that meeting, but his girlfriend was interested, and so he was just going to walk her to the meeting and head out and just kind of let her do her thing, have fun at the meeting. And I stopped him at the door and I was like, hey, like, so glad you're here. We're super excited to talk about triathlon or whatever. I don't remember exactly what I said to him, but he said that kind of got his interest and he felt bad leaving at that point. So then he stayed. And as he kind of learned about triathlon, he's an incredible runner. He ran in high school. And so as he started to learn more about the sport, he became interested, and now he's one of the fastest guys on our team.
Yeah, he's all in at this point. No, that's great. And that's so inspiring to see you build this club. And, not only the nuts and bolts of making a club work, because there's a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of forms. You had to start a bank account. You had to apply for 501c3. I mean, all the logistic issues that you need to take care of, while at the same time trying to drum up interest in the club. And you and your wife, really got this going. You and Ashlyn just did a fantastic job of getting this off. And then Emilio joining your team and helping, having that core group of people leading the way has been really impressive what you've been able to accomplish. So I don't know, Ted, should we go into the first time that the team raced?
Yeah, let's do that, because and I'll just give a little context. Between this first meeting and the first race, it wasn't very long. And I know, like, we're gonna say maybe Pumpkin Man was the first race. Really, Las Vegas Triathlon was the first time we kind of got together. And I think it was like only 4 or 5 weeks from that first meeting to that first race. And I can, personally, I can remember being at that race that morning, like trying to help everybody. And I was so nervous. And then, obviously the next race, same thing. I was super nervous for y'all. But yeah, let's talk about that and in basically moving from that first meeting to the first race.
Yeah, so I mean, we had to kind of figure out ways to incorporate, like I didn't know what to do because it had never been done before at UNLV. Right. I could look at these big schools like Berkeley and some Arizona schools that had full-time triathlon coaches where they're paying these guys tons of money to, I mean, maybe not, but they're paying these guys to coach these students, and they're, working out for 3 hours a day with each other. And that just wasn't realistic for, 15 people who are maybe interested in joining the team. And so we really had to figure out, like, okay, are you going to be ready for this race? Like, can you swim 750 meters? Let's go to the pool as a team. Let's go, every Wednesday night the pool is willing to kind of coach us and give us some drills and whatever. So if you want to show up on a Wednesday evening to do some swimming for a little bit, that would be great. But please prove to us before the race that you can actually complete 750 meters of swimming. Prove to us that you can bike for 12 miles and prove to us that you can run a 5K. And I fully believe that just about anybody can complete the distance. It just takes a little bit of discipline. And so we started a Strava club with the UNLV Triathlon Club, and had people sign up for that. And then I would just kind of loosely track and see how much they're doing, and kind of see, okay, they did a 12-mile bike ride today. They ran 2 miles today. They could probably finish another mile. And so the Las Vegas Triathlon was kind of a fluke race. We weren't really planning on doing that as a team. Ashlyn has watched me do lots of races by that point on my own and wanted to be able to do a race on her own. And so she signed up, and then last minute, our sister-in-law couldn't do the race. And so she gave me her race entry, and then another friend couldn't do the race. And so they gave us another race entry. And so we were like, well, Liam's been super involved in this, so let's ask him if he wants to join. And so then he was like, yeah, let's do it. I've been training. I think I can do it. And that's kind of how we got there.
I love it. I love it. Just let's go do it. I love that attitude. And it was a success. You guys had a great time.
Yeah, it was a great race for all of us.
Okay, so now fast forward to like the first official race. Right, so we targeted Pumpkin Man.
Well, yeah, and let's throw in, because I think you're right. It is the official race, because by then they were an established USAT collegiate team, which is a whole nother layer of forms and filling things out and getting organized for that way. So sorry, Ted, but yeah, you're right. By the time Pumpkin Man came around, they were now in the USAT collegiate division, or close to.
I think you were right at that point, Levi?
Yeah.
Levi. So let's actually maybe talk about that process and going through to become a USAT collegiate club.
Yeah, I mean, so they had pretty similar requirements. I mean, one of their requirements is just be registered as a organization, team, club, whatever your school recognizes, be recognized by your school. And so, that was a huge part of that. And then it was just a lot of emailing back and forth between the people that are high up in collegiate USAT, making sure that our conference was aware of us, making sure that we were included in our conference, and just kind of checking boxes.
Yeah, but still, it's a pretty big accomplishment, right? Like to get in and we had meetings with the people from the conference, and made sure that we were kind of doing everything the right way. And then this was an actual USAT college sanctioned race. And so that was pretty exciting. And once again, I was super nervous for y'all. And I can still remember we went to your house the night before, and we were doing, Dr. Mercer and I we were doing like bike mechanic stuff out until the dark, and giving everyone clothes and making sure everyone had the right gear. And yeah, so let's talk about that race and what that meant to you and to the club.
Yeah, so that race was pretty big for us. I think we had, I want to say 6 of us raced, which was really exciting. There were lots of other people that really wanted to race, but had to drop out kind of last minute for various reasons. And so we ended up with 6 people total in that first official race. And to be honest, at that point, the only people that had raced were me and Ashlyn, and then Liam from a month prior. And so we had to figure out, okay, most of the time you don't swim and bike and run in your gym shorts. So let's figure out what you're going to race in. And we've been so lucky, so blessed from our community, having donated so many, tri kits and all sorts of gear. And the 2 of you have donated so much to our students, tri kits and whatever. And so lots of our athletes were, I think just about all of our athletes were borrowing tri kits, and most of them were borrowing bicycles. And the logistics of, hey, who in the community has a size 54 bike that we could borrow for a weekend? Does anybody have extra shoelaces? Does anybody have extra tri shorts or a tri kit that we can borrow? And so then the night before, like you were saying, we were trying to make sure that these bikes would fit all of our athletes. And so we were doing things like bike fitting with our indoor trainer that we've got here, and adjusting seats and derailleurs, even, I think, all sorts of stuff.
It was super fun.
I love that attitude, though. I mean, it was. I remember that night, and Ted and I are trying to fix some bikes, and then we finally even abandoned fixing one bike, and we're like, just go with this one. It's probably going to be good enough. But I just love the attitude of just ready to go and take on the challenge. I think that was really, really, really a neat way to approach it.
Yeah. So let's actually talk about the race itself. And you are in this interesting situation, right? Like, you're trying to race, but you're also trying to like run this club and make sure everybody's got their stuff. And same with me. I wasn't racing that day, but I was like, I had a backpack full of gear.
Yeah.
Like, someone's gonna need this. I had all my tools. Someone's gonna need that. And then people showing up late. Not really. Hey, the race starts at 6:30 or whatever it was. And it's 6:20. I'm good. Like, just, like, it was one thing, kind of like one thing after another, but it ended up being successful. So let's hear your perspective of that day.
Yeah. So, because there's such a wide variety of, students and athletes, and, we live across the entire valley. Not UNLV is kind of a unique school in that a lot of the students that go to UNLV don't live on campus. And so we kind of arranged for a carpool. Ashlyn and I drove to UNLV, and we picked up a bunch of students there and picked up another student on our way to the race. And we kind of thought from our past experience, generally how long it would take to get ready. We wanted to try to get there early. And so we, scheduled our carpool pickup time, and we got there. I took a wrong turn on our way to the race. And so we ended up getting there a tiny bit later than we expected. And then I had no clue that it was going to take so much longer to really get people ready for this race. I set up my transition, and I was just kind of like, okay, here's generally how you set up your transition. Make sure your bike seat is on the rack, and make sure that you've got these things in this order. And then I start working on my transition and head over to start helping some other students. And then we realize, like, not all of us have race bibs, and so we have to go find some safety pins. And so I think, like 10 minutes before our heat started, Ashlyn and I had to run all the way up the hill to the top where they had some extra safety pins. And so we got a good warm up in by running in our wetsuits and then running back down. And some people, we were pumping up bike tires the morning of. And yeah, I mean, some of us were, running into the water as the horn was going off, as it was time to start our heat.
I love it.
We tried so hard to get people prepared, but man, it was, and for those that, probably nobody knows this, but we were having weekly calls.
Yeah.
And we were literally going through like logistics and training and all this stuff. And it was just so compressed just to get everybody. And then, some people couldn't make the calls. And but we really did try and make it as smooth as possible. And that being said, everyone started on time.
Yeah. It was controlled pandemania for sure. It was, I remember that. I was even trying to get someone, one of your athletes, into a kit. I think it was Liam was trying to get into a kit at that point that he had never tried before, and just put it on and went. And I loved it. I thought that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and wetsuits were brand new for, a completely new experience for most people.
Yeah.
So trying to figure out, like, okay, make sure you get your numbers marked on your arms and your legs before you put wetsuit on, because they're not easy to put on or take off. Yeah, so it was crazy, but everyone started on time and everybody finished. So we were super happy about that. Not without incident, but everybody finished.
Everybody finished, and that was honestly, that was the goal of that race. Like, as far as I was concerned, and I think, John, I think that was the same with you. Like, we were just gonna be happy everybody finished. Actually, I was really happy everyone started, to be honest with you.
Right.
Okay, everyone's in the water.
Yeah.
Because like then it was kind of like out of like, I couldn't help anymore. You know what I mean? Like, okay, they're good. I think, John, you raced that day too, right?
I did race that day, yeah. But yeah, that was the other. I know the other relief point for you, Ted, was when they got to T2. Then it was like, okay, now we're almost to the home stretch at this point.
Well, and for those that people don't know this, but one of the athletes broke a pedal.
Yeah.
And so I'm like at T2 waiting for everybody to come through, and he's not coming through. But we had a Discord chat going, and I think it was his girlfriend that posted in the Discord that he broke a pedal, and I'm like, oh well, he's not gonna finish. And then in the message, oh no, someone's come and helped him. It's been a while. It was like a half hour, and someone came and helped him, and they put a new pedal on or something for him, and sure enough, he finished. So, and like, that was pretty awesome. The resilience. It would be really easy at that point to say, no, I'm good. So I think that was a kind of a good, I don't know, like, opening day for us, that everybody finished. And then there was some difficult times, and we made it through it. So then how do we move forward, right? We're successful, but it's kind of the end of the triathlon season, right? Like, as far as locally, and I don't think anyone else was really racing again that year. So I don't know about you, Levi, but I was kind of concerned, like, okay, well, like, is this gonna like continue? Is the energy gonna continue to go? Because it's hard. Like, you kind of reach the end of the season. Like, we had the race, everyone was successful, and it's like, well, is this the end? Or is this just the beginning of something? So what were your thoughts as far as moving forward from there into the spring?
So by that point, we knew that nationals was going to be happening in California, and we knew that there were races that we had to at least have done an Olympic distance race that was an official race if we were going to do the nationals Olympic distance race. And at that point, we kind of didn't really understand that there was a sprint distance, but it was only draft legal, and none of us were going to be eligible for that. We knew that there was a relay, but we didn't really know what athletes would be able to do that. There was a lot of kind of gray areas that we didn't quite understand. We really had no idea that it was going to have to be all Olympic distance racing for us. And so, like, we were thinking, okay, we've done a race, like, everyone just finished a sprint distance, that should qualify us for nationals, right? We're like, there were other collegiate people racing with us. Most of them were doing Olympic distance, but we're like, this should qualify us, right? And so then we kind of try to get people to focus on, we're like, we're going to do pretty much the same race again in the spring, and we're going to try to qualify for nationals. So we kind of try to get people to focus on that nationals race. And so we planned to take one trip to do a qualifying race for those that wanted to do the Olympic distance. And then we planned on our nationals race. And so I think that having a race to focus on really inspires people to keep training, because they want to be able to, most people just want to be able to finish the race and feel good about doing the race. And so at that point, we said, keep training, like keep doing what you need to do. Try to increase your distance, try to increase just progressive overload, basic concepts of health and fitness is just keep trying for that progressive overload. And we'll talk again in the spring once the next semester is started, but like, congratulations on your race, and we'll see you in the spring, and we'll talk about which races we're going to do. So that was kind of how we ended the semester.
Well, I love it because that year you were really getting immersed in triathlon yourself and learning with every race. But at the same time, you're also learning as a group, and you're also learning how to keep this group moving forward. And it's so neat to see both of those things happening at the same time. And now I think that's leading into what's developing into a very strong club, that you've got a good core group of people who are really enjoying getting involved with triathlon. There's still hurdles. There's still, gears that we've got to try to get the right gear for each person, but everyone really seems to be genuinely enjoying getting involved with triathlon, and the way that you're running the club is just outstanding.
Thank you. Yeah, we what's interesting is, so we've got Rage this upcoming weekend, and our very first local triathlon was almost entirely males, and now this triathlon it's going to be almost entirely females.
Yeah.
So it's kind of flopped, but we have pretty much the same amount of interest, but it's one of the challenges of being a collegiate triathlon club is that you've got such a wide range of availability of commitment. You've got a lot of people that think this sounds like a really cool sport. I would love to have some sort of program that would inspire me to stay in shape, and that's kind of a big drive for a lot of people. But then there's also we want to be competitive. We don't want to be absolutely demolished in national championships every year, while we're super proud of how we did as a team. Everyone PR'd by a substantial amount, but we still, I think only one or two of us were in the top 50% of racers that day. So we want to be able to make this team competitive, but we also want to be able to, there has to be a pipeline, I think. And that's one of the biggest challenges that we've been working on, is creating this pipeline of these students are training only athletes. They're coming here to get some advice on how to train better, and they're coming out to do a bike ride with us every couple weekends or whatever. They're coming to do a little swim with us, and then there's the athletes that are really committed to trying to be the best athlete that they can be and get faster every single race, and be able to go to national championships and feel proud of how they raced.
So let's talk about the national championship.
Yeah.
So that it's to me it's remarkable, right?
Yeah.
A year ago, we didn't know who you were. This was just, once again, an idea that you had kind of floating around your head. And was it 4 people that did the national championship? So
yeah.
We had 4 people go down to Mission Viejo for the national championship. So let's talk about that experience, and what maybe a little bit more deep into your personal feelings, not necessarily about your race, but just the club.
Yeah. Well, I was having a conversation with Ashlyn the other day, and she was like, honestly, you said your goal was to get to nationals as a team, and she was like, that sounds really cool. And she's like, I'm going to support you the whole way. But in her mind, she was like, I don't think it's possible. I don't think we're actually going to get there, but I'll help you do whatever you need. And we'll try. But she was like, I don't think we're going to be able to. And this is honestly, it was a a stretch. It was kind of a challenge to get us there, but we made it there. And I think the race day was particularly stressful for me, because at that point I felt like I had the role of a coach, almost the president of the club, and I was an athlete. I had to make sure that my race was the best that I could do that day. And so, the night before, I'm trying to make sure that we get, plenty of carbohydrates in our meal. I'm trying to make sure that we are eating and that we're well hydrated, even though we have to drive for 4.5 hours the day before. And, we don't want to have to make bathroom breaks every 30 minutes, but we want to stay hydrated. And so there was a lot of like logistical challenges that I had to try to maneuver. And then race morning, it was, okay, let's try to get there as early as possible. And then we got an email saying, make sure you've got this QR code for the race. And none of us could find the QR code. And we couldn't even find our confirmation code that had said that we had signed up for this race, even though we knew we had. And so we're stressed out the morning of, like, oh no, are we going to be able to actually do this race? Or are we going to show up to packet pickup and be turned away? Are we going to have done all this work for nothing? And so we were stressed about that. And so we get down to the race, and I wanted to make sure that our tires weren't going to, like, thinking about it now, I wanted to make sure our tires weren't going to pop when we drove to California. I wanted to make sure that everything was going to be in good shape. So we deflated our tires and had to make sure that we pumped them back up. But I had tried to be budget friendly with my bike pump, and so I bought one that ended up dying the day of the race. And so we were panicking, trying to figure out how to make sure everybody's tires were pumped up to the right pressure, and borrowing bike pumps from Cornell University, and trying to get everybody's transition set up. And at some point I had a little meltdown. I was like, I can't, like, I'm trying to help other people, even though they were all very capable of helping themselves, and they were all very self-sufficient the whole race day. But in my mind, there was that extra burden of, how do I make sure that everybody else has an enjoyable race? How do I make sure that my team is ready to go and ready to, perform our best and represent the very first time our school has ever raced at nationals? This is the first time anybody's seen a Las Vegas school at a race of this type. And so there was kind of that pressure that I felt, and I wanted to be able to also have the best race that I could do. And so I just kind of had to sit down for a minute and say, like, take care of yourself and make sure that you're good for this race. Find everything you need. Just take a deep breath and get to the start line. And then, so I just had to kind of take a step back for a minute and calm myself down.
I love and I appreciate the honesty with that, because races are stressful. All of us get stressed out going into a race. You had the added stress of working together with other people. And I know this sounds odd now, but in the long run, this is going to help you out, not only as a triathlete, but as a club as well, is to experience those things and being honest with how things go. But again, at the end of the day, you all had a great time.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, it was stressful in the moment, but I think you sounds like you just did the right thing, and you just said, okay, step back and, pull this together, which all of us need to do a lot of times at the beginning of a race, and then just get to that start line and have a great day. So I know it's hard, but I really think that in the long run, this is I guess you're learning triathlon exponentially faster than a regular triathlete would be learning.
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of things that I've learned every race that I've had with the UNLV Triathlon Club. There's always been multiple things that I can pull from that race, and I've become faster because of it, for sure, by a lot. I mean, my Olympic distance paces are substantially faster than my sprint distance paces used to be, and I'm PRing by 10 minutes or more
Yeah.
in most of my races now, every time almost. So there's been huge gains, really newbie gains from the things that I've been learning. And it's, I think, inspiring other students. I think that, posting about this race that we did, I had tons of friends recently just be like, oh my goodness, you did nationals. Like, how was that? How'd you do? What was the experience like? And so getting to show that to other students is really kind of inspiring. And I think it's what is going to be the driving force to keep this club moving in the future.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What is the future? What does it look like? How do we get this pipeline going, and what are your plans?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'm going to graduate this summer. And so, I can't be president forever as much as I would love to continue to be president for a long time. I have to be able to help as a community member in whatever ways are possible. And so I've been working with you, Ted, to get certified as a triathlon coach. And so it's my intention to volunteer time to help coach in whatever ways are possible. As a UNLV alumni, Ashlyn wants to help continue to run the team. So, we'll see if we'll run elections after our Rage triathlon, and we'll see what students want to be the next president and what other officer positions they want to hold. We're super excited that we'll be an official UNLV sports team in the fall. We have to have 1 year of existence as an RSO, as a registered student organization, before we can become an official UNLV sports team. And so we're about to reach that requirement in August. And at that point, we'll have a lot more resources available to us. And so then at that point, we can, according to their rules, we can host races. And so we want to keep working with the SRWC, with the rec center, and keep those kind of races coming, because they're very easy, low barrier to entry. You don't need a bike. You don't need to go out in open water. You just go to we do a run and then a bike and then a swim, all at UNLV. And so we want to keep doing those. And I think that by having more events on campus, we want to get students more involved. We think that as students get together and get to race, or even just, our team bike rides that we've done, our team swims that we've done, there's a very unique bonding that happens in those events. And so I think as those keep happening, then people get excited about the races. They're like, I'm training for this. I just biked 12 miles. I can do a triathlon now. Like, I know that if I can bike this distance, then I know I can finish the whole race. And then at that point, they start to say, okay, well, how can I get faster? And then, so I hope to be able to work in conjunction with you and continue to coach and help students and kind of direct them and help them to get faster. And I hope to inspire future presidents and inspire future students. If anybody listens to this podcast and says, oh, I've got a niece or a nephew or a grandson or a child, whoever, somebody that they know that is going to UNLV or will be going to UNLV, like, I highly encourage them to encourage that friend of theirs, that family member of theirs, to look into the triathlon club, because it's a great way to get involved at UNLV and to while you're still young, see what the best shape you can get in, and compete and do some fun races, and even hopefully travel to some fun races out of the state. It's just a great opportunity that I highly encourage for all students to kind of push themselves and see how much progress you can make.
I love it. This is inspiring. This is great. It's great to see what you're doing, and I think the future is bright. And again, I think you've got a good core group of students that just going to keep building on, and it'll be fun to continue to see this triathlon club grow.
The other thing I was going to add, John, is he said he's graduating, but he's taking a class from you and a class from me. So I mean, I don't know if he's graduating.
That's true. Yeah. Grades are not in yet.
Classes, we may have a president for another year.
Wow.
No, but honestly, like John was saying, like this has been so inspiring, and thank you for I'm just gonna say thank you, like for reaching out to us and allowing us to help you. I know like you've thanked us many times, but thank you. Like this is been something that John and I have been wanting to do for a long time, and it couldn't come from us. Like that's the rules of the university. It has to had to come from a student or student group, and like we thank you from the bottom of our hearts because we plan on being involved at UNLV for a little while longer, and we want to see this thing grow, and we want to see it kind of take on its own self. You know what I mean? Like this perpetual motion. And I know it was super hard in the beginning. And one of the things I think that you've done is hopefully you've created an infrastructure that will allow this to basically just keep moving forward and moving forward and moving forward. So yeah, thank you. And then the other thing I want to do is thank all the people that have donated. So many of our listeners, because we've talked about it on the podcast before, and people in the triathlon club locally have donated. Pretty much anyone that needed a bike, eventually we got them a bike. We got everybody kits. We got shoes,
helmets,
bike shoes. We got helmets.
Yeah.
And then just people donated money. I mean, I know like going to nationals was not cheap, and just in the beginning of the club, like just getting stuff that we needed to get. And I want to thank everybody for doing that. And I'm going to hit you up again, like continue to donate to these people because we have a problem in our sport that we don't have a lot of people your age, Levi, doing this. And our sport is old and we need more young people involved, but we also have to recognize that the young people in this triathlon in triathlon need support because it's an expensive sport. I mean, it's just inherently expensive. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but for example, just going to California for a weekend is not cheap. And so yes, I once again thank you, and then thank everybody in the community that's helped us along the way.
Yeah, we really wouldn't be here today if it weren't for the support of our community. We wouldn't have, we wouldn't have had our 6 racers the first race, and our 4 racers go to nationals, and our 6+ racers this upcoming weekend. None of us would be able to really accomplish what we've done so far if we didn't have this amazing community support. It's been a game changer.
Yeah. Well, when people see you folks racing at Rage, you'll be in your UNLV Tri Club kits, and people just got to yell out, "Go Rebels," when you see them.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, this is exciting. Thanks so much, Levi, for joining us tonight. This has been great to hear your story as well as how you built the club and the others that have helped you along the way. It's really, really great.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, hey, have a great week, and we'll be back soon.
All right. Thanks, everyone.